Hey, what's going on?
What's up, buddy? Hi.
Good evening. Let's go. I don't know.
What is wrong with you?
Hey, I'm just getting over the coof. What is it? Why is Last
You had the coof?
playing? I had the coof. I didn't even know.
Oh,
what are you doing here? So
You
how
got
do you
the
like?
coof. I
So
had
how do
the
you-
old
What the hell's
coof. You
going
got the
on
new
here?
coof.
What are you
I've
doing?
had both now.
Wow.
How did that happen?
That was freaking
That was
funny.
weird.
Oh, that was amazing.
I'm looking at the phone. And I'm not talking.
No.
What the? That's
I saw
not the
my head
shirt
bob.
I'm wearing. Like, what
Nope.
the hell happened there?
Nope.
Oh my Lord. I know what I did. I played the intro, but it was attached to last week's show for some reason.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. So what's up, man?
Nothing. Nothing. You know, another Monday night.
Yep.
Warm weather's here. Actually, I should make, while we have a minute, I should make an announcement. Finally, this Wednesday night at 6:30, we're going to have a backyard game night at the middle school, adults only.
Good.
6:30 to 8:30 for the first one. We're going to alternate Wednesdays until we get a feel for the kind of volume we can get. Because Parks and Recs did it with us, and he had to rent some equipment. So there's going to be, what did he say? There's going to be mini putt, cornhole, not bocce yet because the bocce courts are on back order, but there'll be a few other things there too. So it should be fun.
Lawn darts?
No. What did I say? Cornhole.
Hey, putt. Yeah. No bocce. But no lawn darts?
No.
Greatest barbecue game ever made.
Yeah.
Lawn darts.
Spike in the head.
It's great. That's great. Many
hey,
a foot, many a torso, and many a head were pierced by those things
That's right.
in a drunken game of lawn darts.
Underneath the dot.
Uh-huh.
Hey, so we I don't want to be rushy here, but
No,
we
it's
only got
rushy.
27 minutes of Kurt.
Kurt.
Yeah, so let's get him in and get him
There
out.
he is. There's the man, Kurt Millar.
Hey,
What's up,
There
buddy?
he is.
So what's the latest?
chickens rock.
Chickens rock. There you go.
Yeah,
There
let's.
you go.
We had a lot of talk about chickens and enough people saying hug with the chickens. But we do have to put a bow on this because this isn't just about the chickens.
No.
Folks. Remember that.
Yeah. It's not about the chickens.
I mean,
No, I actually spent what was it, my Saturday morning digging into the histoplasmosis.
All right.
Hours of it, actually, trying to figure out, the fear behind it. And to be honest with you, if you think about it, no matter what you do, the fear is a pregnant woman could lose or have a miscarriage because of the dust from that stuff. If they walk by a demolition site, they have the same potential. Any kind of construction, landscapers doing work, they have the same exact potential. So the fear of that is exactly that. It's just instilling fear about it.
And the reason we're doing this because that's whose reason was that?
that was
Marianne or
Jeannie brought that one up.
Jeannie brought that one up. So this is why we're saying those things. It's they're coming up with some outlandish, outrageous what ifs on these situations. But I found some interesting stuff. I think Vasily actually sent this to me. So I'm going to jump into this and then we will put a bow on it for now, like we said. But Bill had mentioned in the meeting, Bill the Shill Schmidt had mentioned in the meeting that they've been talking about this since 2016. And while that's true, see, that's not going to come out. I hate when this does this. So I'm not even going to put that up on the screen. I'm just going to read it from the photo that I have. So while that's true that they talked about it, but they never did anything about it. It just sat and sat. So evidently it wasn't a big priority to them until Bill went to Vasili's house and said, oh, now it's a priority. For years, literally years. So I'm looking at the agenda items from January 17th, 2016, all the way up to January 10th, 2023. 7 years, right?
Right.
Nothing was ever talked about as far as chickens. You had animal regulation finalization, and that was in January and February of 2016. Then you had animal regulation talk in September 2016. Then there was a kennel permit, and then you had keeping of animals on June 18th, 2019, and that referred to pigeons. Then nothing about chickens. Chickens, nothing. Then in 2021, it starts with chicken permit, keeping of animals. Then it moves up occasionally throughout the list to January 10th, 2023, when there was no talk of chickens. Now, what's interesting about this? It's a timeline of minutes. So in 2016, the Board of Health discussed the proposed draft regulation on keeping of animals or ordinance review by the town council, for ordinance review by the town council. Now keep that in mind. They're keeping it with the town council, right? And then there's something that gets slipped in here in these minutes as I read them. I'll point it out. Various issues involved with the final vote expected at the next meeting. And that was March 22nd, 2016. So you go to February 23rd, 2016, a motion by Tracy Honan, seconded by Bill Schmidt, go figure, and voted unanimously to approve regulations. Regulations will be submitted to the Town Ordinance Review Committee. That was mentioned in February 23rd, 2016. So you go to September 27th, 2016, Chairman LeConte distributed a draft of the proposed Winthrop Board of Health submission for ordinance review to be discussed at the October Board of Health meeting. The scope of the ordinance pertains to the keeping of fowl and bees only within the town of Winthrop. Once the proposal is finalized, it will go to town council, again, in public hearing before regulations are finalized. Then we get to October 25th, 2016. The minutes say lengthy discussion of the draft regulations. It's just a lot of, let me see, placing a cap on a number of animals. All right, approach from an effective care of animals versus placing a cap on the number of animals that's allowed. Ciccarella will check with the MSPC. Other communities, caps, distance stipulations, talks about bees, regarding keeping of bees, nothing about chickens. So then we move over to December 16th, 2021. So now, how many years have passed now? 5?
5.
Right? 5 years have passed. Right? So then we get into chickens permit keeping of animals. A resident has expressed interest in raising 4 chickens on his property and wanted the board to supply details on what this would involve for permitting. Since the initial request, resident has postponed the project, but the need for updating the ordinance for keeping of animals remains. Bill states, and you're going to hear Bill's name a lot in this. Like, Bill is the only voice you really hear in all of this, which says another thing. Bill states that recommendations were set in 2016 to the Charter Commission for revision of the ordinance, but no action taken at the time. Bill states that Revere may be the resource for updating ordinances, as they are in the process of revising their own keeping of animals ordinance. Now, Kurt, did you see Revere's ordinance by any chance? Did you get a chance to look at it?
Yes. They
And
actually
is
are
it
very
conducive to chicken owners
Yes.
or not?
Oh,
It
yeah.
is. So that was Bill saying that. So that's what we want to stick with. Hey, Revere might be a good one, right? Well, that's going to change eventually, as we found out already. Bill mentions the recent news that Massachusetts is implementing a strict policy concerning minimum space of the scarcity of eggs in Massachusetts. Now, on January 19th, 2022, Bill provides background. Back in 2016, members of the Board of Health, Tracy Honan, Nick LeConte, and Bill were working on an ordinance in Winthrop concerning keeping of animals. At the time, Tracy was updating the existing ordinance. Now, this is pertinent later on. Due to an absence of reference to beekeeping, all right, the town ordinance committee got the ordinance for amending, but this was not completed. Due to the age of the original ordinance, 2011, we may need to revise and or update the ordinance on animals. There have been recent inquiries about chickens and beekeeping for residents. The Board of Health may do now listen to this. The Board of Health may do a regulation instead of submitting an ordinance to the town council for its approval. Does this sound something wrong with that?
I have an answer.
Yes.
I looked up the difference between ordinances and regulations. Ordinances are laws created by local legislatures like city and county governments. Regulations are not actually laws, but are legal directives to explain how to implement statutes or laws.
Okay, so use that in a reference to the chickens.
So that's a good question. I would imagine that the ordinance would have to say, and Kurt, you can jump in if I'm getting this, if you have anything to add. The ordinance would have to say setbacks, front, side, whatever, how many chickens you can have, how often you have to clean, is there a fee? And then the regulation will determine, in my opinion here, I'm assuming, who oversees, who does the follow-up, right? Who on the town side implements the statute or the law, the timeline, how it's going to be implemented. That's a guess, but.
So I think the regulation can tie in some of what you said for the ordinance, though, where the Board of Health has been granted, let's say, the power to determine what a regulation is. It's not a clear cut, a separation of an ordinance versus the regulation. So the Board of Health can actually create a regulation on bird feeders. Also, I know we've discussed that.
So
but
they can, once they make the regulation, that's it. So they have a choice to either run it through the town council for an ordinance, and if they don't like that, then they can say, well, I'm going to make a regulation.
So what's weird is
if you
look at different cities, some cities have the zoning board.
Right.
Do the setbacks and all that. And then the Board of Health kind of ties in with their the upkeep, cleaning, avoiding the sickness type stuff.
And there's a Board of Appeals.
Yes.
For any ruling that's not made in the favor of the citizen, right? They have the option to go to a Board of Appeals on any decision made. Should be the way it is, right?
Should be.
I know when I was having a house built in Winthrop, we had to go to the Board of Appeals a couple times, over driveway space and stuff like that. But the Board of Health, according to Bill, he can just, damn it, I'm going to make a regulation. How'd that happen?
You are having a lot of trouble tonight.
I slammed my, hold on. Hey, let's hide that.
That's fantastic.
It's not really.
Oh, it's good.
It's not. That's magic though. Boom. So this is what I get out of this. There's no, he knows there's no, because Winthrop doesn't have anything in place to question the Board of Health, which is a flaw in the system. That's a serious flaw in the system.
The only way to actually, once the Board of Health has made a regulation or determined an emergency situation where they step in, the town council and everybody really has no say.
So
that's what the state has given them the power for.
Because of health emergencies.
Health emergencies, but this is not.
This isn't a health emergency.
No, but it doesn't preclude them from making a regulation. They do have that authority.
And so why do they even deal with going through an ordinance through town council?
They would tell you to be nice. We're being fair. We're trying to be nice. That's my guess.
They're trying to be nice by bypassing the
No, giving them I would imagine they would say, hey, let's try to do it through ordinance so that the town, because the council supposedly represents the will of the town, right? If you believe elections are an accurate representation of the makeup of a town, then that is the will of the town. This came up in the flag policy debate too. They represent the will of the town, therefore they can decide on ordinances. The fly in the ointment here is that, in simple terms, I don't want people listening to be, and by the way, we're not legal people, but the fly in the ointment here is the power that the Board of Health has granted them by the state.
Well, why would they start with an ordinance and all of a sudden Bill just says, I'm just going to make a regulation?
I'd like to have them answer that question, but that's
like they have the double-edged sword.
Yeah, he's allowed to do that.
They can cut you at both sides. It doesn't, but it makes no sense. I would understand, like you said, in a situation like the pandemic or there's an outbreak somewhere. Okay. But as far as that goes, someone's at Kurt's door.
Amazon.
Yeah, someone's at Kurt's door. So anyways, let me continue. Tracy states she'll be able to help, right? Because it says Bill may do a regulation instead of submitting an ordinance to the town council for its approval. Tracy states, remember this, she'll be able to help. Bill comments that the best way to build a new ordinance is to borrow from another similar community that already has ordinances in place. Bill and Tracy, remember that, Bill and Tracy will collaborate on this project. That's important. Using other towns' ordinances as a model. They've already mentioned Revere, but now it's not Revere. Now they changed it up. You see what Bill's doing here? He's using every loophole he can find to get his way. Anyways, keep the Bill and Tracy thing in mind. As a model, adapting the needs to Winthrop. Bill points out Massachusetts Association of Health Boards website may be a good resource. Now, on February 8th, 2022, Bill states that Tracy Honan, Bill the Shill Schmidt, states that Tracy Honan sent an email to the board providing details of the draft that was done a few years ago. Revision of this draft is better reflect the needs of the town is needed. To better reflect the needs of the town is needed. Bill states that the work already done by Tracy could be adapted for a new ordinance. Remember that, okay? Because this is all going to come full circle to his comment that he made at the last Board of Health meeting. Bill states he will review the draft sent by Tracy and craft a new ordinance to be reviewed by the board. Bill states that a resident, then it gets cut off. Resident issued a request to the board about keeping bees, and Bill stated, okay, so we get into May 10th, 2022, Board of Health meeting. Bill reports that a resident has 3 chicken coops in their front yard through a miscommunication with inspectional services. Where now inspectional services is in play here, right? Whereas before, now the bill doesn't even go to inspectional services. Bill just says, no, I'm making the determination where it goes and where it doesn't go, right? He has never mentioned inspectional services at any of the recent meetings, to my recollection. Is that true, Kurt?
He brings it up, and maybe not pertaining exactly to this, but he does bring it up every once in a while.
Does he say we don't have enough people?
He does, but inspectional services is involved in the 2011 ordinance or keeping of animals, the regulation.
And they said it was okay.
They are part of it.
They said it was okay because that's where Vasily got the permission, right?
If you get the permit.
So they said it was okay. Okay, and they went and they looked and they said, okay, Bill didn't like that. Now he calls it a miscommunication. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Well, you also got to remember, Bill didn't even remember who was signing off and giving out the permits.
No. Bill only knows what Bill wants to know and what Bill wants, because his ego takes over when it gets to that, his narcissism. Anyways, let me see. The inspectional services, the current regulation prohibits keeping of chickens in front yards of that for the resident, a variance be made to allow to keep his chickens in the front yard until Bill revises and finalizes. So he's the judge and jury and executioner till he finalizes and revises, not the board. This is where it starts becoming Bill. Everything is Bill, right? So the board evidently just sits there. All right, variance to be made to allow him to keep the chickens, and Bill will revises and finalizes the keeping of animal regulations to be reviewed and approved at June's BOH meeting. The resident, Vasily Malios, resides on Pleasant Street. Mr. Malios is approved for 3. So then we get to June 14th, 2022. Bill reports that he has met with town councilor Tracy Honan and discussed revised keeping of animals regulations. Bill will submit a draft of the regulation at the next board meeting in July. September 13th, 2022, Vasily Malios voices frustration about the regulation concerning the placement of his chickens on his property. Bill reviews the permission was given incorrectly to Mr. Malios to have chickens on his property without regard to placement of the coop. Bill states that the board granted a variance until new regulations were drafted to allow Mr. Malios to continue with his chickens while regulations were worked out. Now that the regulations are approaching finalization, Mr. Malios will need to find a different placement for his coop in order to comply with the regulations. Mr. Malios does not agree with the board's position that chicken coops in the front yard are a threat to public health. Remember, this is a Board of Health thing. This is a public health thing, right? This is why we're dealing with the Board of Health. I'm taking it, right? Bill makes a motion to pass the draft of regulations, present to the town council, and then have the public hearing motion passed. So he's still intent on doing it through the town council, right?
At that point.
Yeah, and that was in 2022. That was October or September. October 11th, 2022, Bill reports that he was unable to bring this matter before the town council due to their inability to put it on their agenda this past month. He hopes that next month this can take place. After that has been accomplished, a public hearing will be held tentatively next month. The board at the next month's Board of Health meeting. Right? So this is where it gets a little interesting. November 10th, 2022, Bill states that the current ordinance is severely outdated. An initiative to update the ordinance took place in 2016, but nothing resulted. New draft by Bill needs to be brought to town council for their input. Still town council. Councilor Tracy Honan sent the following email to Bill and reads it into public record. Says, "Good morning, Bill. I will be out of town tonight." This is from Tracy Honan. "Good morning, Bill. I will be out of town tonight and unable to attend the meeting. In regards to the animal regulation, I would like to express my disagreement with the idea that chickens may not be located in the front or side property. There is no public health reasoning for this aspect of the regulation. I think including this language in any future animal regulation would be setting an improper precedent for the Board of Health, i.e. making regulations which include language that is unrelated to public health."
Boom.
This is from the town councilor. Bill read this.
Who was formerly on the Board of Health. She was the
Yes.
health inspector.
Who did all the research. He stated this was in the minutes, did all the research. She was getting things together. She comes back and says, there's no reason for that.
She's 100% right. I can give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely. Says, please consider omitting language from the animal regulation that prohibits the construction of chicken coops in the front or side yard of the property. Thank you, Tracy.
You know, if Bill took that from her seriously, I'm starting to, this is going to sound a little bit self-serving, I think, and it's an opinion, but if he took that a little bit more seriously, we wouldn't be in this place. And he seems to not like the ideas that, I mean, he seems to have this thing with women. It's Tracy's idea. I mean, it's Tracy's research. She did the work. He admitted it, and then he ignores what she does. I don't know.
No,
I
that's
don't know
fine.
what's going on in his head. That's all. That's all I got to say. But that's if I were a woman worried about, focusing on women's rights, I was watching his behavior over the years. Anyway.
So part 2 of that, Bill points out that the proposed regulation does not prohibit keeping of chickens in the side yard. That's one of his tactics. He's great. Well, he's a liberal, so he's great at deflecting. Yeah, I said it. So what? He deflected that right into the side yard. Didn't address what she said about the front yard because it's not a public health issue. It's not a public health issue. Huh?
Whose cats are meowing?
Kurt's got animal
my daughter's
farm
got a
going
cat
on.
too.
It's an animal farm.
It sits right at my door. Pretty annoying. I
So here we go.
Name for him.
And so that basically finishes it up. Let me see. Bill reports that Sharon Ciccarella, there are a total of 3 people in Winthrop keeping chickens officially. There's likely more. Then there's this paragraph. I don't know where it came from. It says, doing so without permits. The extent of this is not known. All right. There's likely more people doing this without permits. The extent of this is not known. Bill states that keeping of animals regulations, once finalized, will need to be well publicized. So he's still going forward with this, even though Tracy said his sidekick this whole time since 2016, even though she said it makes no sense, it's not within the purview of the Board of Health. She said it shouldn't be that way. Bill states that the keeping of animals regulations, once finalized, will need to be well publicized to ensure that the population is aware that permits are required. Marianne sent an email to board members. Now that's Marianne. Who's Marianne? Do we know? Dalton. Okay. Sent an email to board members on keeping of chickens and reducing infectious disease, sharing the item via screen share. Jeannie forwarded a study tonight from Boston University Public Health stating that keeping of chickens in front yards is not indicated to a public health risk. Is not. So what is he doing? So what is Bill doing? Who can stop this? Who in the town of Winthrop? So they all just sit back, and he's blatantly making this up because he doesn't want chicken coops in someone's front yard. His personal bias. But all this information was fed back to him. He ignores it, and he still persists on, nope.
Kurt, what's the state's? I mean, I know you had mentioned a couple times that there is some potential relief at the state level. Have we got any information update on that?
Somebody just put it up there. That's probably Vasily, right?
No, that's Carol, a friend of mine I graduated with.
Okay, so she states, after the last meeting, I called the state and asked who oversees the local boards of health and what are their responsibilities. I think we need to look at the state guidelines and define the board's scope. The state sent me a link to this, and it's an extension that I can't pull up here. So I don't know the politics of how to get it supported for Bill. So none of this makes any sense. This is basically Bill's ego taking over.
It kind of feels that way, where
looks that way.
The citizens are giving information to the Board of Health. And I've always been a strong believer that, our people in any kind of committee, a lot of here in town, they're all volunteer. There's no money involved. Yeah, they have a lot of work. You still should be doing the research and identifying pros and cons. It shouldn't always just be what you think it should be, because you can find that in anything. So I believe in servant leadership. He in no way, shape, or form is a servant leader.
Not even close.
To the people of our town.
He's not elected.
And no, he's appointed.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give them all credit for, volunteering their time to do it. Yeah. It does take a lot of effort. And I've said it multiple times. He passes the work on to others to get done. I don't know if you've watched any of the meetings he's had. It always seems like he's not the one actually doing all the work, or even a good portion of it. It's always somebody else that needs to do it.
Well, it looks
Look
like Tracy was doing
anything
the
on
legwork.
the agenda. Anything on the agenda.
Yeah. Tracy was doing
But
all the
then he'll-
legwork, and then she turned on him, and he referenced Vasily, actually, or was it you? One of you referenced Tracy at the meeting. And Tracy, you said something, well, Tracy said she put a study together. And he goes, yeah, that's right. And then within like 21 seconds said, but then she went and reversed her course and disagreed with you. And he said, well, that's her opinion.
Right. That's
Like,
that was
this
the
is all
silly-
on video. This is caught in 4K. Like, she just he disregarded her just because she disagreed with him. There has to be oversight on something like this.
You have to wonder if there's not something going on up here that's misfiring. I mean,
No, it's his ego. He's a narcissist.
I'm trying to be the good guy.
I'll be the bad guy. He's a narcissist. He has a superiority complex. He's a misogynist. Like I said, I don't know why they would call me a toxic male or this when that guy is the one that's blatantly insulting women in public.
Yeah. No.
It's really amazing.
It's amazing.
So if we reel back into the using Revere as a guideline, I mean, I understand utilizing other cities, towns, and what they've already put in place is a guideline, something to review. But if you went and looked at all the different communities he looked at, none of them have like a 10-foot setback. They're all the 5 feet and under.
5 and 3, 6.
So why is the final determination 10? There is no evidence, no anything, no statistics that they're providing to say that's why it is. And you hear Marianne go, well, we're trying to be work with people, or I can't remember her exact words, but going from 50 down to 10. And I get it, that, and I'm still fighting to try and find the 5-foot one, but 50 foot to 10 foot. But if you're going to reference all these other communities and utilize them as a guideline to go by, then why are you not following even that?
Well, that's
point?
what I've been
You
saying.
did a bunch of other stuff, but not this.
Just like this flag policy. I hate the idea that they look around at other communities and the people in charge are just going to cherry pick the things that fit their agenda. And then they can say, well, Revere does it this way, but they don't tell you the whole story. They tell you the parts that they want. And they cherry pick and they make it look like, oh, everybody's doing it. But they're not really. That's why I hate that. Just be original. Come up with your own. You know? I don't know.
I've always been a big proponent of coming up with our own and then referencing back to what's out there, because we're a different community. We live, everyone's community is a little bit different, distances between houses, tolerance of neighbors, what else they got going on, tools and resources to actually implement and follow up and enforce. Like, all those things have to be considered. So I've always been a big fan of creating our own first, being original thinkers, maybe pioneer instead of copying a lot of the same stuff that doesn't really work,
And how do we know if this isn't outdated?
Right. Out mode.
But Tracy said it.
Yep.
Tracy said it. He's setting a bad precedent.
He's
They can just say it. They can come up with any bullshit. Oh, the bird feeders. Like I said, bird baths are a bigger threat than these chickens.
They are.
But I don't know why they don't listen to this. Like, it's like you could say it right to their face and they'll go,
Squirrel.
but you can put it in the side yard.
Which
They
is
just don't listen to this stuff. It's
which
amazing.
at Vasily's house is no different than the front yard.
So then if I was, all right, you want to play that game? I'll play the game. I'm just going to move it to the other side of my yard. Now I did it. Okay. Look at my plot. Look at my plot line. Look at it.
See, what I'm also not understanding is the regulation is keeping of animals, but it's only specific animals, because
Exactly.
they don't do anything with any other animals. It's only the list of animals that are there. By the way, we can have a pig in town.
Can or can't?
Can. You can have one pig.
Let's get pigs.
Yeah.
So I'm going to double check that on the ordinance right now, but I'm pretty sure you're allowed to if you have the space.
And Marianne and Jeannie just go along with him, man. They just sit and take it. They sit and take it every time. They come up with these things. It's almost like they appease him by just coming up with stuff that's going to keep him quiet.
I'll still give Jeannie some credit. At least she started digging in. And
yeah, but
looking for more
then he just
information.
shushes her. Then he shushes her.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think she's probably the most who will listen. I really do. I feel she will be the one on the Board of Health that actually truly listens.
She's got the quote unquote biggest ears on that in that group, I think. I agree. You know,
Well,
and I actually put up on the Winthrop Loves Chicken page about the there's a vet who actually came out, did a whole thing on the histoplasmosis, and she flat out said that most doctors, not veterinarians, do not get the education on zoonotic diseases as
Yeah.
compared to vets.
yeah.
So nurses also don't get the same kind of training on it. If you're a vet, you tend to focus more on those kind of sicknesses that come about with animals.
my cousin lives in Minnesota, and his wife, she grows vegetables, she grows spices, she raises chickens. She's got, I think she said 15 of them. And she chimed in on Winthrop Vote saying that, hey, this issue of what is the, I can't even hyper, what's the word? I can't even remember it.
Histoplasmosis.
That's the one. Histoplasmosis
I'm
is
not a nurse either, by the way.
non-existent in small chicken farms. It's non-existent because
She's
It's
digging.
next to none.
And she
You
came
have
up
to have a disgustingly dirty coop that you just let sit there for that to build up and create a dust that someone can actually start breathing that in. You have more likely chances of people cutting down trees and some kind of landscaping than
Yeah.
in the chicken coops with,
You know what?
12 and under.
The key to this whole thing is Marianne and Jeannie they're the ones that have they do. I know they do. They have common sense. They got to dig in and see this because he won't see it. His ego and his narcissism will not let him see this. Those two have to come to terms and say, listen, okay, there is something wrong here. We are setting a bad precedent. This is beyond our purview, right? It really isn't a threat. And just say no, just 2-1.
they do need to,
They are the key to this thing.
to keep this guy in check, because I think he's a little drunk on his position.
They have to see this. I mean, they're intelligent women. I see that.
Agreed.
And I know they're passionate. They like what they do. I know they do. They are the key to this. They have to see this and go, you know what? They're right. Go back to what Tracy Honan said. Those two should go talk to Tracy Honan because Bill won't. We already saw he turned on his friend Vasily, his ex-friend, just to get his ego boosted, just to get his narcissism right, So somebody just said, Lane and I have shared maintenance. Is that Vasily?
That's Vasily.
Plans with Marianne Dalton after she had requested it. Let's see how that goes. Those two are the key. They have to stand up to this guy. I'm basically putting it on them. They're smart enough to know there's something wrong here. And if they talk to Tracy, I guarantee she'll change their mind.
If we apply common sense, anyone who's going to build a chicken farm, for the most part, is going to take care of the dang thing. I mean, why else?
You'll always have people who don't take care of their pets. You always do.
You're always going to,
Small percentage who don't do the right thing.
But they're going to be the easy ones to spot, and then you don't have to worry so much about enforcement, right? Because the neighbors are going to rat them out. The neighbors will rat them out if they're seeing chickens dying and rotting. They would call.
Kurt, listen, I know you're on a short leash here. Speaking of animals,
kicking me off already?
No, I don't want you to be like, I know you came in and you said you needed 30 minutes and you're 9 minutes over. I don't want to be responsible for you getting in trouble at work.
I'll always make it on time.
Just like when you get elected to the town council, you'll always be there on time, right, buddy?
I'm planning on
so,
it.
You can stick around. I just wanted to remind you that, you're over your self-imposed allotted time.
So as I'm going out, my final thing on this is, as a small town, very small town, I feel that no matter what committee you're on, you need to have an open mind and listen to all sides on things. And that's what this with the Board of Health is. You know, you can have your on the Board of Health their beliefs because they have some medical background but they don't have specific medical background for chickens. We need a vet. We need a couple vets. I already had one vet come on and say, you know, there's no real issues with this. But that being open-minded and listening, I think is an issue we're having with a few things right now here in town with this. And you can really see it with the
Scotty,
with the
can you stop this madness?
with
I mean, it is funny.
I gotta hold on. I gotta.
So there's like one of the I forget what committees. I think was it a school committee that had videos popping up.
Oh, really?
Right.
Inappropriate. I think it was a school committee. It could be wrong. But I was sitting watching it, and all of a sudden, you know, specific orange and black channels with type stuff was coming up.
Interesting.
But so what I was leading back to is that Bill needs to redirect his thought process to be more open to being a servant leader. And that's what you should be on any committee, any council. And this is hurting the town. It's not helping the town.
Narcissists don't think that way. Narcissists are dangerous people, especially in a position of power. And he will never see it that way. He just won't. You watch how he bucks you at every comment that you made during the Board of Health's public speaking time. He can't help himself. He's an insecure man who's narcissistic, egotistic, and I don't know why he doesn't show me anything that shows he should have an ego other than they put him in the Board of Health thing. And he's abusing his power.
Oh,
and he's abusing the women on the board.
Another note is that the Board of Health does not have to have public hearings, but if they choose to have a public hearing, they have to follow the guidelines, which is the 2 weeks notification, put in the local newspaper, if that's the means of communication, or also posted in the town hall on the bulletin board. 2 weeks. If I recall, it was not exactly 2 weeks for that.
And for somebody who's the smartest guy in the room, every time he walks in through the door, that was a dumb move. Because he does think he's the smartest guy in the room all the time.
Yep.
But
all right, I got to get out of here. It's been,
as I always say, get off the show. Get off the show. Get done. Thanks, Kurt.
All righty. Have a good night.
We'll see you later.
All right.
Oh. What do we got here?
I just thought I'd see if anyone else thinks there's a resemblance to Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, gee. It's an insult to Christopher Lloyd, I think.
Oh.
I think. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but it's up. Those two have to come to their senses and see that this, just like Tracy said, they're setting a bad precedent. And they're part of it. They're part of it. They have a chance to stop this.
It's the same thing with the flag policy. Quietly, there are members of the council, the community, the town hall, the town offices that know that this whole flag policy thing is being pushed by a small handful of people. If these people weren't so pushy and insistent, we would have a legitimately safe flag policy where we would have American, state, and POW flags flown, and everybody can fly whatever they want on their own property. They could even, the policy, and by the way, this is coming up, so this is timely. The flag policy is coming up tomorrow night. They're voting on it. And I was told, Stephen Ruggiero came into, so I was with Father Walter the other day at Adriana's. And if you like coffee, good place to go up at the bridge, see our friends.
Yep.
And I asked him basically the basis of it, and he offered that they're going by the city of Boston's new policy. And the proposed ordinance basically says the city the city, or under the new process, a city council resolution or mayoral proclamation will be required for a flag to be raised. So the translation to Winthrop is the town council or the town manager. And I'm told
it's one or the other, right?
no, it's either or.
So town council can say yes, and then, or they can say no, and then the person can go over the town manager and he'll overrule the town council.
I don't know those details yet.
Right.
That's yet to be voted on. I'll hopefully find out tomorrow night. I'm trying to get a copy of the policy now. I didn't know it was being voted on. Otherwise, I would have FOIA'd it. But they're also allegedly they're going to have a list of pre-approved flags.
Who approved them? That's the question. Who approved them?
And it's going to be up to the will. See, that's the thing. It's going to be up to the will of the council, or the town manager who was hired by the council, because that represents the population. And it goes back to this whole discussion about elections. And you know what? To the people who don't go out and vote, this is again why you should pay attention. And this is not a hill to die on anymore. I'm certainly going to be heard on the issue, but I know that if I go to pull a license or a permit or request to have the Gadsden flag flown for the 4th of July for 2 weeks, they're going to deny me because they're going to fall. And the people in charge, some of the people in charge agree that the flag is harmless.
Well, don't they have to have a valid reason for not flying it?
It's not on the list.
And why wasn't it on the list? They're not going to give us any breakdown of what was presented and what wasn't presented.
We'll find that out. But to me, it's discrimination. And I did reach out to the Liberty Group is the law firm that sued the city of Boston and won.
Okay.
And they, I had about a 30-minute conversation with one of their paralegals. And essentially what they said to me was, look, we have to see what the list looks like first. That we can't give you any legal advice. But if there's a hint of discrimination, we take these cases pro bono.
There you go. So
who knows?
They were warned. The town council was warned.
Well, they got their legal
by us a couple of times. Or I'll say I won't put you in it. By me.
No, they
were warned.
They've said, the town manager is comfortable that their legal team has got this right.
Okay.
So, and by the way, just to put a bow on this, we said that it's going to be on the cultural center. They're installing 3 flagpoles there. That's all fine and good. This isn't about the flags again. This is about fairness. That's really all it's about.
Yeah, what can fly and what can't. You were called a racist, basically, by Flockhart, by town councilor Barbara Flockhart. You were called a racist.
I was.
Because of the Gadsden flag. Because she's a screaming liberal who looks at the Gadsden flag as a threat to America. Not knowing the history of the flag, though. She only sees it on CNN. People like her only see things on CNN and it's in MSNBC, and it's reality.
Here's a question. What would we call if the person who shot up the Christian school was wearing a Progress Pride flag, would that make that Progress Pride flag, I don't know, evil, crazy? What? Because
again, who's saying
exactly
what is acceptable and what is not acceptable? Like who can we FOIA who made these decisions so when the lawsuit hits, their names can be dragged into it? It'll all be on the votes will all be taken on the but who created the policy?
It would be assigned to all the people who voted. Right.
But somebody created the policy. Somebody presents. So did the town council create the policy or
rules and ordinance?
Rules and ordinance created the policy.
Yeah. And
then rules and ordinance are the ones that said what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Right, but by vote, the council will be saying the same thing.
But it doesn't matter. I'm going. You got to go back to the basics of it. You have to go back to ground zero. Whoever established that list is setting themselves up to be sued because it'll go back in discovery. It'll go back to them. Who created the list? They were an organization representing the town of Winthrop, correct?
One of them's a council member.
So there you go. So they're going to be responsible for who created. Now the town council is just saying yes or no. right? Yeah. So the town council, they're on the hook, but the people that created the list, that's going to, that they decided what was right and what wasn't, are the ones that will be held liable on this. Well, and they represent the town, so the town as a whole.
We want to go after the bank, though. We want to go after the money.
Oh, it'll all go. It all goes. Once the dominoes start falling, dude, the dominoes fall. Yeah. Especially in a court case like that, the dominoes fall.
Let's see what happens tomorrow night.
Yeah. If they're that brazen that they're going to leave off certain flags, So what was the one that really got them in Boston? Was it the Christian flag or the Satan flag?
It was the Christian flag that they wouldn't fly. And it was a Christian group. It really didn't represent any church at all. It just was a Christian group. It had no roots in any church organization. Okay. So that's why they lost.
Okay.
And they probably would lose too if it were, because they had
the city of Boston lost.
Yeah, the city of Boston lost. They would. It probably would have lost no matter what, because they really had a very arbitrary policy at the time for the raising of flags.
Right. And just because they run it by legal in Winthrop, and they see it one way, of course they're going to see it one way because they're getting paid by Winthrop, right?
Yep. Well, it's just another. It's just a small group of activists that want to be angry and loud. Look, we had the food drive that day on the town lawn. Every flag under the sun was flown that day because we pulled a permit.
Yeah.
Pull it right. The policy, in my opinion, should state: you want to fly a flag on the cultural center, pull a permit. The only flags that we will reject are ones that, and I had this conversation with Father Walter. The only flags that should be rejected are ones with, vulgar language, nudity, things that just aren't acceptable in public.
The Nazi flag.
Well, he asked me about that, and I said, look, let's talk about that for a second, because I think some people would find it offensive. But at the end of the day, if you really believe in free speech, you can't stop that flag.
Right.
And right. You know what? I don't think any lunatic in Winthrop
will do that.
Will do that.
Who's going to stand behind it?
Right. Who's going to sign? Who's going to fill out the thing to raise the stupid?
Well, they don't have to stand under it.
No, they don't. And they don't have to look at it.
They can submit the permit to fly it, and then they just walk away. No one's going to know because most people just walk right by. Or drive right by. They'll say, "Oh, why is that up there?" They're not going to ask who did it. Right?
It is provocative, Suzanne, but that's the danger of free speech. You got to be willing to take it. You got to be willing to. It's free speech.
That's now I'm curious about the list of what didn't make it.
Well, what was not proposed is more the question. They didn't. I don't remember a public hearing. I don't
remember a public hearing.
So there's that.
So you get this group that's making this list, and they're asking their friends, "Hey, what do you think is acceptable?"
And I don't think they have to have a public hearing, but again, if you really are a community oriented, and as Kurt says, what do you call it? A something servant, a servant leader. If you really are a servant leader, and you really care about the whole community, even people who you disagree with, you look for their input, like we did on the Ordinance Review Committee. We looked for their input. I was happy to have all the diverse views on that committee that we had. And I for the most part, I took their input seriously.
All right.
For the most part.
Well, we'll see how it goes tomorrow night. Like I said, Marianne and Jeannie are the keys to stopping Bill and his ego and his narcissism, and stand up to that misogynistic behavior, ladies. It's he's out of control, and this is showing it. Even Tracy Honan turned on him. And getting back to something I talked about probably now going on a month ago.
Oh, boy.
I am still a big proponent of tearing down the middle school and creating open space.
You can't call it green space, can you?
Well, you can, but even like a friend of mine, I think Richie Farino, I was talking to him. He says it's called open space, really. And there was somebody else that put it on Facebook. Open space sells a town. It really does sell a town. People like to see that when they come into town. They like to see a nice open space where they can bring their children. It promotes family, right? They've been sitting on that middle school for 10 years now. all it's going to be is a revolving door of new people coming in saying, this is what we should do. This is what we should do. This is what we should do. Put a community garden down there, a big
With
section.
chickens. Actually, like they do in East Boston, right? In East Boston, they have community gardens where people
down there by right by the airport.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
They can grow their own vegetables. I mean, it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think, that whole area, just forget the idea of putting what should go there. Know what should go there. And I'm telling you, you put a nice water fountain there in the summer, that place is like a magnet for families. Trees, lots of trees.
That's the way it is, because people think they can develop their way out of these financial messes, and it's not true. No matter, even though you're not going to
tear it down
to school, they're trying to build. The big build now is all these small, micro condos, these small efficiency units that don't attract families. But it doesn't matter. You're not going to develop your way out of it, because even though you're not putting kids in the schools, you're still adding to the cost of running the town. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Our public safety, in many ways, is not completely up to code on what they need to have for apparatus. So, and I want to add,
Glenn, no hurry. Yeah.
Glenn's been asking. Glenn has been asking about
Monty Falcone.
Yeah, he's been asking about the cops' cams, right? That the
not on their budget yet.
No, they got them. They're coming
body
in.
cams. Yeah. Good.
Now they have to negotiate with the union. So now they got to get a pay raise to wear them.
There you go.
That's how it has to work. Just so we know.
Yeah, there you go. So on trees, I was thinking of my hometown of Winthrop this past weekend. So myself and my wife decided that she really took the lead on this one. I'm basically the backyard guy, getting the whole pool thing done, and we're getting it all. So we decided to re-landscape the whole front yard, redesign the whole front yard, right? So we have 3 queen palms and 1 baby royal palm, right? I don't know where the royal palm came from. It's amazing how birds just drop shit and shit grows, right? So we're basically redesigning the yard. They're gonna take one of the, so there's a queen palm on the corner. I'm on a corner lot, right?
Yep.
There's a queen palm there, and there's 2 queens here, and the baby king palm is over here, royal palm. We're going to take this tree and move it with the other ones. So we're literally moving trees in my yard. And I said to the guy, do not kill any trees. I like trees. There's a lot of baby palms, baby queen. They might have to get sacrificed. They're not even like, up to my waist. They're not really, they're going to get picked and they're not going to get destroyed. They'll get relocated, probably to a palm farm down here, but I don't want to kill them. So for all the tree lovers in Winthrop, just know that down here in Florida, we love our trees too. My street is lined with oak trees,
The royal palms, aren't those the really, really
big ones? They get big, yeah.
But aren't there ones that kind of have the fatter trunks and they're shorter and they look a little thicker? Or
there's so many different palms, like you got queen palms, royal palms, king palms. There's a lot of different varieties of palm trees. And they're all great. But we're going to have this. So I already called it. My front yard is going to be the 3 queens because they're going to be in a triangle. You got 3 queen palms in a triangle. I thought it's pretty cool. I was like, make this, and this. And yeah. And there's some other tree that grew out of a stump, an old log that somebody, like the previous owner, had left this log amongst the front yard because they kind of designed this whole thing. And it's pretty cool. It's like it's its own area. And this tree just grew out of it. And it's growing right next to the royal palm. They're like fraternal twins. And that tree's getting saved too. That's getting relocated. It's not an oak tree. I forget the name of it, but so it was, we're all about trees this past Saturday.
Well, that's good. See, you guys like trees. You don't have as many, of course, but they're nice when you have them.
Dude, we have a lot of trees on this. My whole community it's oak trees, palm trees. Like we had the block party here 2 Sundays ago. And it was on my street specifically because of the cover.
Yep.
They actually cut down 2 of them though. They had a disease.
that's too bad.
Yeah, the mushrooms are growing out of the bottom. And that means that there's some sort of fungus going on in the tree, and it spreads to other trees.
Yes, it does.
So they had to cut down a couple of those oak trees. Listen, you gotta sacrifices have to be made, mister. What movie's that from?
I don't remember.
I believe it was Dirty Harry or Magnum Force, one or the other. Sacrifices have to be made, mister.
Have to be made. Oh, I didn't catch the Mister part, Mister.
Yeah.
That reminds me of John Wayne, Mister.
Okay. All right, buddy. That's it. We hit an hour.
Oh, beautiful.
Quick hour.
Yes, it was. And I get to go nighty-night sooner than later.
All right. Stay on for a second. Stay on.
Right.
Don't leave. Because usually Todd just bails on me. He's like, all right, enough for you. And then he leaves. Like we go off the air and he literally goes, enough for you. And then he just leaves.
I don't say that ever.
You do.
Oh, my God.
You do. A couple times he gave me the finger. He gave me the finger. It looks like we're all happy, joyful here. When we get off the air, he doesn't want anything to do it.
You
I'm like,
wouldn't want that stand if I did that. I know better than that.
It's like he just totally ghosts me until next Monday.
Scott who?
Exactly. Doesn't answer. You don't answer my calls. You don't take my text messages.
You don't write.
You know, right? All right, good show. Next week, we'll have something. I still have a list of things that.
We're out. You're on vacation, dude. You're cruising.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I won't be here next week. No show. I will be, let me see. Next week, this time, we'll probably be somewhere in the Caribbean. Yeah, Aruba or Dominican Republic or one of those places going on the biggest ship in the world.
I need to be a house husband.
Yeah. Dr. Vera takes care of me.
I need to be a house husband.
No, she needs the break. That girl works hard. She needs the break. God bless her.
On so many levels.
Yeah. Oh, you saw that I'm getting a life-size Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
And Spider-Man. It's going to be right back here. This is where all this is going to be gone, and Iron Man will be there by summer.
Where's the Hulk going?
The Hulk's staying in the living room.
Okay. Why was he outside getting a breather?
That was for the block party.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people will get their pictures taken. With it. Yeah, they love it. They love it. Some kid tried to buy it all. He's like, "Hey, is that for sale?" I go, "I don't know. How much you think it's worth?" He goes, "I don't know, a couple thousand." I went, "Oh, no.
More money?
It's worth a minimum 10 grand. Minimum.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No thing. Wow.
Yeah.
You ain't got better things to do with your money.
I didn't spend 10 grand on it.
All right.
That's the key. I didn't spend 10,000 on it, but I could sell it for 10,000.
I would find someone to buy it quickly.
Well, I told you when we bought this house, one of the things my wife said was it needs to have ceilings high enough for the Hulk. So God bless her.
Wow, that's
and it's right in our living room, right next to our TV. It's in the corner. Yeah.
My wife would never let that in.
It sounds to me like, from my experience, 98% of wives would be like, oh, you can't have that. Because that's how they talk.
Ixnay on the okay.
Oh, you can't have that. That's not proper. It's not appropriate for my house. Because that's how they talk.
It's not aesthetically pleasing.
I'm only kidding, ladies. I'm only kidding.
Stop being misogynist.
Yeah. Stop acting like Bill the Shill. Yeah. No, she's all in. Like I said, the Iron Man and the Spider-Man are coming this summer, and yeah. Anyways, all right. Listen, buddy, stay on.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna say goodnight.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. You got it.
I've repeated myself now for almost a year and a half now. Local politics, get involved, share this around. This is why these things happen. We have people making decisions in a rogue style fashion. I don't want to go too crazy with it, but these things matter because you wake up one day and go, how the heck did this happen? It's because you're not paying attention. Show up, please.
What is it? All
politics starts at the local level.
That a boy. Like I always say, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you like it, share it. If you don't, thanks for watching this long. Always appreciate that. Yeah, we won't be here next week. I will be in the Caribbean somewhere on an Odyssey of the Sea. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. And I have a list of things, and I'm sure Todd will too. Tear down that middle school. We want open space, lots of trees, a fountain, in public garden
with chickens.
Good night.